I did not expect it to happen the way it did. There was no warning, no dramatic countdown, no moment where I said goodbye. One moment I was breathing, and the next moment I wasn't. My body was still there, but I was not in it anymore. I knew immediately that something had changed, not because of fear, but because of clarity. The confusion, the noise, the pressure of life vanished instantly. What replaced it was awareness, pure awareness. I realized something in that moment that still shakes me today. Life is not as solid as we think it is. We plan, we stress, we argue, we worry, believing we have time. But when that moment came, none of those things mattered. Not money, not titles, not opinions, not even unfinished plans. Only truth remained. I was aware that I had crossed a boundary. I cannot explain how I knew, but I knew. And in that place, there was no darkness, no fear, no confusion. There was presence, a presence so overwhelming, so pure, that words fail to capture it. And then I heard a voice, not loud, not forceful, but authoritative beyond anything I had ever known. It was not spoken into my ears, it was spoken into my being, and instantly I understood. This was Jesus. He did not introduce himself, he didn't need to. His presence carried authority, love, and truth all at once. There was no accusation in his voice, only clarity. And then he said something that changed everything I thought I knew. He said, "My people talk about power, but they do not live in it." That sentence pierced me. He showed me something, not as a vision like a movie, but as understanding poured directly into my spirit. I understood that many believers live saved lives, but powerless lives, forgiven but ineffective, faithful but silent where they should be speaking. Then he spoke again. Speaking in tongues is not noise. It is not a performance. It is a language of authority. I realized then that many people misunderstand this gift. Some fear it, some mock it, some reduce it to emotion. Others use it without understanding. But in that moment I understood its purpose. Jesus showed me that when words fail, the Spirit speaks. When the mind is overwhelmed, the Spirit intercedes. When the enemy cannot be confronted in natural language, he is confronted in a spiritual one. He said, "When my people pray only with their minds, they limit themselves to what they know. When they pray with their spirit, they align with what heaven knows." That shook me. I understood that speaking in tongues is not about volume. It is not about impressing others. It is not about emotion. It is about alignment. Alignment with heaven's will. Alignment with divine authority. Alignment beyond human understanding. Then he showed me something else, something sobering. He showed me believers standing in battles they were never meant to fight silently. Attacks that should have been confronted spiritually were being endured passively. Doors that should have been opened through prayer remained shut because people stopped speaking when they should have continued. And then he said something I will never forget. Silence is not always humility. Sometimes it is surrender. I realized that many people are quiet not because they are patient, but because they are discouraged. They stopped praying with expectation. They stopped praying with authority. They stopped believing that their words carried weight. But Jesus said, heaven responds to spiritual language. He explained that speaking in tongues is not for God's benefit. It is for ours. It strengthens the inner person. It sharpens spiritual awareness. It builds endurance when faith feels weak. He said, when you speak in tongues, you are not speaking nonsense. You are declaring things before they exist. You are reinforcing what has already been approved. Then he showed me something about time. He showed me that many answers are delayed, not denied, and that spiritual language sustains faith during the waiting. It keeps the heart from giving up. It keeps alignment intact while the natural world catches up. He said, the enemy fears believers who pray beyond understanding. That sentence still echoes in me because it means something powerful. The enemy understands logic. He understands fear. He understands doubt. But he cannot interpret what is spoken in the Spirit. Then everything began to shift. I felt myself being pulled back, gently, deliberately. And just before I returned, Jesus said one final thing. Tell them that prayer is not begging, it is partnership. And then I woke up. Breath rushed into my lungs, sound returned, time resumed, but I was not the same. Because once you understand that heaven listens, once you realize your voice carries authority, once you know silence is not always wisdom, you cannot live the same way again. Speaking in tongues is not about being spiritual, it is about being aligned. It is not about emotion, it is about authority. It is not about confusion, it is about communication beyond limits. I share this not to convince, but to awaken, because there is more available than many are experiencing. And heaven is still listening,